Now, everyone that makes up the college football realm waits all offseason hoping that our team gets a chance to win the whole damn thing. We check for every update. We jabber back and forth with our rivals and opponents about whose team is a contender, whose team is a pretender. It literally consumes us, and we love it. But the main thing we ask for, the only thing we really want, is for a chance at that must-win game late in the season. That one game to get us to the next big game. Now, this Saturday in T-Town, it's one of those moments for both LSU and Alabama. And we know LSU already has 2 losses, so it's do or die. It's not even close. Bama also has a loss, and a second one, while it wouldn't totally eliminate them from the race, would severely damage their championship aspirations. Now, this is the game that will define how high the ceiling of either one of these teams can actually be. It will either be the catalyst toward a legitimate chance to win the whole thing, or the last chance your team had slipping slowly out of their grasp. And this matchup on paper and from a game tape situation could not be juicier. LSU has the best offense in the country right now. They rank number 1 nationally in yards per play at almost 8, which is ridiculous. But Bama is a legitimate problem on defense, where they also rank in the top 10 in America in yards per play given up. So it's strength versus strength. Technically, weakness versus weakness. Something has to give. But we all know this game won't be decided on paper, won't be decided by talking heads. It will come down to players, not play calls. Matchups, not spreadsheets. Can Jaden Daniels have his Heisman moment? Or will Jalen Milroe continue to hit big plays in crucial situations against an LSU defense that still has more questions than the Riddler taking the ACT? Now, we will see. Will an unsung hero step up? We've seen it in the past. Either way, it's a must-win moment, Tide and Tiger fans. 2 shall enter the arena, but only 1 will survive. And I, for one, can't wait.
I can't wait.
Darkness shall bind.
Yeah, 1 ring to rule them all. You already know. David, former Michigan, about said Western Michigan, former Michigan quarterback David Cohn, former Western State Colorado wide receiver Blaine Crane. See, I kind of mixed it up a little bit. Guys, and I can go down the slate. There's some really, really, really good matchups this weekend, including sneaky matchups. We have some rivalry games as well. Got the battle for the Commander-in-Chief trophy over there, Air Force and Army. But when you look at this LSU-Alabama game, and just looking at the numbers, like I said, on paper, it's fantastic. You've got an LSU offense that is ridiculous. I'm going to go through these Alabama defensive statistics real quick. Alabama's number 13 in the country in points given up per game, 15th in opponent yards given up per game. They're 8th in the country in opponents' points per play, 10th in the country in opponent yards per play. All right, now you go look at LSU's offense. All right, they're 2nd in points per game at almost 44, 1st in yards per game at 543, 3rd in points per play, number 1 in yards per play, number 6 in third down conversions, number 37 in red zone scoring. But this is a mega matchup. All right, we have a unstoppable moving object facing an immovable object, however you want to put that. Jaden Daniels versus this Alabama defense. But I do think, David, whenever we have sides of the ball that are going to actually get to play each other on the field that are the strengths of each team, I think you can say Alabama's defense is still their strength because they've been consistently inconsistent on offense. Just look at Tennessee first half and then second half. It's those secondary or even tertiary phases that end up deciding the game, right? Alabama's offense versus this LSU defense. That's a huge question mark. But also Alabama has Will Reichert, who has not missed a kick all year. You look at the special teams aspect of this. Right now, I don't have a great feel for it, David. I feel like home field advantage, obviously we know what that means, but LSU is so good on offense. Can they get enough stops defensively? Can Jalen Milroe make a couple of those mistakes when it comes down to a two or three possession game? Man, I can't wait to keep breaking this one down.
Well, that's the big question, and I'm so glad you talk about special teams because when, all things are even on a football field, that's one side of the ball or one aspect of the game that gets overlooked. I know not for you because you coach special teams, but we circle this game every season. We talk about it all off season, and you really don't need to know anything else about this rivalry other than both of these teams take their bye week the week before they play each other, which I think is always a really fun fact. You're talking about Jaden Daniels and the LSU offense. I think they're going to be able to score and move the ball on what is Alabama's strength, this defense. But I keep going back to the way LSU played in the Ole Miss game. Jaden Daniels threw for 414 yards in that game, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and LSU rushed for 223, and they still lost to Ole Miss. Ole Miss rushed for 317 in that game against that LSU defense. Now, we've been talking most of the season now about how LSU's defense has been the biggest surprise because it doesn't seem to be a personnel problem, right? Like when you have
they don't have bad
Harold
players.
Perkins Jr. and you have Mason Smith and you have all these guys running around, it doesn't seem to be a personnel problem, which tells me like any week could be the week that the LSU defense figures it out. That's not the case for some sides of the ball that are bad at a lot of schools. So I'm looking at this LSU defense like, could this be the week that they actually figure this out? Maybe they can get home to Jalen Monroe. Maybe they can shut down the run game a little bit for Alabama. But if things go the way they've been going, Alabama's going to be able to score also, and they're going to have the whole home field advantage. The second half of that Florida State game, which we live streamed together, we were watching it together, Florida State wasn't hitting these huge, big shots down the field. They had the Keon Coleman slant route for like a 50-yard touchdown that they hit, right? But FSU came out in the second half and said, we're just going to run the football on you. We're just going to out-physical you. If Alabama can come out and do that, then I don't know if the game's going to be particularly close. The LSU defense at some point has to bow up and get strong.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now and use our code CRAIN, C-R-A-I-N, because new customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on the NBA. That's only at DraftKings Sportsbook with our code CRAIN, C-R-A-I-N, and that's just one of many incredible offers they have in what is the absolute best time to be a sports fan. We've got the NFL. We've got college football. College basketball is right around the corner. Just talked about the NBA, NHL, and the World Series. What else could you ask for? So make sure you download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use that code CRAIN, C-R-A-I-N, and go check out all the exclusive and incredible offers they have at the best sportsbook on the planet. DraftKings, the crown is yours. I want to run through these LSU defensive numbers because they're not good. And we always talk stats and box scores and things like that. They give you a preview of the movie. They don't tell you exactly the whole movie or what the whole movie is about. But we're to the point now in the season where, we're going into week 10. These numbers do mean something. We're starting to find out who teams really are. Opponent points per game. LSU ranks 84th in the country, giving up almost 29. Opponent yards per game, 92nd in the country. Opponent points per play, 89th in the country. Opponent yards per play, Blaine, 106 in the country. And here's where it just rips your guts out. And this is where I think the difference in this game could come down to. Opponent third down conversion percentage. LSU is 106 in the country, giving up almost 45%. And then opponent red zone scoring, LSU is dead last in the country, giving up 100% of the time when the opponent gets in the red zone, they score. I'm not saying just touchdowns, but they score in general. When you look at this Alabama-LSU game, Blaine, we watched LSU be able to move the ball against Florida State in between the 20s. But and I know it was the first game of the year, but when they got into the red zone, that defense stiffened up. They weren't able to get the ball in there. I don't think LSU is going to have a problem, even with Kool-Aid McKinstry and the Globinauts they got running around on defense. I don't think LSU is going to have a problem moving it in between the 20s. But when you get down inside that 20, inside that 15, inside that 10, I think it's going to have to be Jaden Daniels creating on the outside, because I don't think LSU is going to be able to line it up and just run it down Alabama's throat like they have in some of these previous games. I'm telling you right now, the red zone is where this game's going to come down to. This is where a lot of games are won and lost, but especially this game that I think is going to be tight. Explosive offense, really good defense, and even with LSU defensively, you get Alabama down there. Can you hold them to field goals to keep yourself in it? That's a fascinating storyline.
I think this game's going to be about red zone, obviously, and it's going to be like who can get off the field on third down. Both these defenses. If an Alabama team, this is the most disciplined you need to play up front against a guy like Jaden Daniels. Because look, even on the road or at home, Jaden Daniels knows how to score against Bama. He does. He's athletic enough, and you go through the year of what he's doing right now. He's putting up Heisman numbers. I kind of go back to the Texas game a little bit when you look at Alabama. Texas kind of got home against Jalen Monroe a good bit in that game. So if you're LSU, Alabama hasn't been a great running football team. To their standard, they haven't. If you're LSU, what's your game plan on defense? Are you heating them up? Are you sitting man-to-man against Bama? Do you trust your DBs? You can't. So in my opinion, you got to go get Monroe, and you got to go get him early. If LSU wants to be in this football game, they need to come out and have a hot start. That's what it's like, having a guy like Jaden Daniels at your quarterback that you can trust. You have Malik Neighbors, who I don't think anybody on this defense is going to be able to cover. Can Alabama stay disciplined up front enough to not let Jaden get outside the pocket and create? Because if he starts doing that early and he starts getting in his bag early, I can see where you just need to have an above-average game on defense for LSU.
Well,
that's what you need. You're going to be able to score points against Bama. I don't think their secondary is good enough to run with you throughout the game.
Well, the matchup, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Malik Neighbors, I can't wait to see that one. The problem with LSU is they also have Brian Thomas Jr. They also have Mason Taylor. I don't think you can stop Jaden Daniels from getting outside the pocket. What I think you can do is it's almost like having insurance. You just try and mitigate the damage, right? If Jaden Daniels is going to get it, he's going to get outside the pocket some. He's just got that much wiggle. He's that fast. He's going to take off some. But can you not let him hit those humongous plays down the field when it turns into a scramble drill? When he does get outside the pocket, can you turn those 60-yard plays into 15-yard plays? And I don't think you do that by doing one thing. I don't think you do that by saying we are going to heat his ass up the whole night, or we're going to rush 3 and drop 8 and put a spy on him. I think you mix it up. I think you give him a totally mixed bag. I don't think you let him see the same thing more than twice. And if you do show him the same thing pre-snap, you do something different pretty much every single time. I think it is a wave of confusion that I don't think you stop Jaden Daniels in this offense. I think you slow them down to the point where you're not giving up these humongous plays. Because what's the recipe to beat Bama? You have to have players make incredible plays. Brian Thomas Jr. going to have to go up and get a couple 50-50 balls. Malik Neighbors is going to have to break somebody off 2 or 3 times. Logan Diggs, this running back group, they're going to have to be able to run through tackles and get those 3rd and 2s, maybe when they get hit at the line of scrimmage, and be able to fall forward. It is going to take all hands on deck, everybody making big-time plays to win this game, especially on the road. Because the thing about this, the scariest thing about this Bama team is the same thing that scares the Alabama fans. You just don't know. They're consistently inconsistent. I can watch one half of Alabama football and be like, this team is they're just good. They're not great. They're not elite. They're not excellent. Then I'll watch another half and be like, oh my God, Alabama may be the best team in the country. And as a fan, that worries you because you're seeing something different all the time and you don't know what to expect. But as an opponent, as a competitor, it scares you to death, because I don't know if we're going to have a duel and you're going to pull out an AR-15 or a butter knife. Like, that's the unknown is scary to me, which shows you it's like Bama they can actually figure it out. And if they do figure it out, they're pretty tough to stop. Jalen Monroe gets in these, zones where he just freaks out for a quarter and a half. That's what I find the most fascinating, is the unknown here.
Well, how did Texas do it against them? They hit big shots over the top down the field. We were talking about a lot of those, double move concepts and the ping concept, short double post, all that kind of stuff. The thing with LSU and Jaden Daniels, they can hit the shots over the top, but then also Jaden Daniels is such a threat to move out of the pocket and to scramble. So I'm wondering if part of the strategy here may be even saying like, hey, let's don't give up the big shot. Maybe it's just let's try our best to keep them from scoring even when they do hit the shots, right? Because if we can at least get them in the red zone without having scored the touchdown, the field will shrink for us.
Field goals.
Right?
Yeah.
And then maybe you can hold them to field goals, give our offense a chance here with Jalen Monroe, who's improved every single week in almost every metric that we measure a quarterback by. He's improved week in and week out against a defense that's already suspect. And maybe when you're talking about the red zone battle, like you and Blaine were talking about, it's that Alabama ends up scoring touchdowns while LSU has to settle for field goals, even if they somehow win the total yardage battle, or they win the big play shot battle, but they don't score touchdowns off of it.
Well, Alabama's been vulnerable running the ball. I think if you're LSU, if you're LSU and you're Alabama defensively, I think that the recipe is somewhat similar. Just make Jalen Monroe beat you from the pocket. Like if Jaden Daniels is going to beat you, try and make Jaden Daniels beat you throwing. Right, and when he does get out of the pocket, try and mitigate the damage down the field. If he hits a 12-yard play on a scramble drill, he hits a 12-yard play. It's better than the 50-yard play. But right now, I think Bama's a 4-point favorite. The over/under is 60. The last time I saw it, I'm pulling it up right here on DraftKings. I tell you what, right now, as far as picking a side, I don't feel comfortable picking a side. The juice is on Alabama at -112. The over 60, I can definitely see that. I can definitely see the over.
Like if this game turns into a shootout, that's what LSU wants. They want you want to run a track meet. LSU's been running a track meet every game except the last 2 weeks against
I agree.
Army and Auburn. If it turns into that favors LSU, and LSU knows how to play at Tuscaloosa.
I think you're right. I think if this is in the 20s, Alabama wins the football game. But turning into a shootout, like I just said with Ole Miss, they lost that one 55-49. So if they've lost,
give yourself a chance
meets,
in the fourth.
The -4, it kind of feels right to me. It seems like this will be a -2.5 Alabama spread by the time.
Yeah,
I won't take it higher.
It was
than
6.5
on
last week.
6.5.
It was 6.5
last week.
Early
It's sitting at -4 right now. That seems like a little much. I think the hook under a field goal is a little more right.
Hey, YouTube, whether it's college football, whether it's NFL, whether it's Major League Baseball, college basketball, NBA, NHL, Quidditch, and underwater basket weaving, we got you covered here at Crane & Company. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button on the videos, and turn that notification bell on so you know even if it's tiddlywinks when we're talking about it.